In this lecture, we will discuss some common concerns teachers have with debate. That means some common criticisms that we sometimes hear from teachers or questions normally before they have started debate and they have maybe, some preconceived notions of what debate is. So the purpose of this lecture is to clarify most common questions and concerns that teachers have. These are shortly, briefly, four main concerns that we usually receive. One, that students argue for the side that they do not believe in. Two, that debate does not lead to consensus or a solution. Three, that debate supposedly supports relativism. And four, that debate is a kind of sophistry. Let's go through them one by one, starting by the point that students are arguing for the side that they do not believe in. So this is a worry that the teachers sometimes express, and they say that they do not want to make students go against their beliefs, that they find it dishonest, that they find it, manipulative even. And we agree that this will often be necessary, that they will argue against their beliefs. However, we actually want that in a way. First of all, we actually want debaters, so students, we want them to learn how to construct an argument for the opposing side. This is so because even, when in real life they have an opinion of themselves, if we want that opinion to be rational, it must be, open to rational examination, which means that we want them to be able to apply the same logic and the same goodwill of argumentation to the side that they do not agree with. We believe that reason should be detached from personal convictions, that reason is something that you can analyze clinically, critically, independently. And we think that this is something that debate teaches them. And we believe that, knowing how to argue against your beliefs is actually something that can be beneficial, not only to be able to understand your opponents, but also because we want the flip side. We want them to be able to criticize their own beliefs and scrutinize their own arguments. So yes, this is something we actually want. And on the point of it being dishonest, it is very important that everyone in that situation is aware of that everyone is aware that debate is a showcase of logic, not necessarily of personal beliefs. However, other than that, this is an exercise we support. The second concern that we often receive is that debate does not lead to consensus or a solution. Teachers will say that debate is antagonistic, and that it being antagonistic is a problem because it's an explicit goal for both sides to win. That it is in a sense a zero-sum game. However, we tell you that reaching a consensus or a compromise is a different game, and it might also be beneficial, and maybe it even warrants a methodological approach. However, the point of debate is one that it asks a direct question, very often a question of concrete principles, and this is a thought perhaps quite often articulated in ethics, that you cannot really compromise principles, right? They are by nature exclusive very often. So very often, if you're really trying to answer a principal question, a compromise, it would be dishonest. Precisely the compromise would be maybe dishonest. So instead of compromising in debate, we want students to, defend their position fully, because only this way can a position, can an opinion, can a belief be thoroughly developed and thoroughly examined. So this is really important, because, for instance, imagine you have, like, a position, it has several arguments, and now you, after half of the debate, you decide for a compromise, you leave it at that. What if there's a big inconsistency at the end of the argument? What if there is a big, problem with the logic somewhere? We want debate to go to the very end. We want all logical means to be exhausted. We do not want, to stop in the middle and look for a compromise. However, if you want to make a compromise, then you should have the observer, the judge, the audience, who should make the decision based on the principles. So the speakers in a debate should defend the principles absolutely, but then maybe if you want, the audience can then, be the deciding factor, and maybe can say, okay, why not a compromise? However, we think that debate not leading to a consensus solution is actually perfectly fine. The third thing that is often, a concern is debate being relativist. Teachers will sometimes say that, they're concerned because debate seemingly promotes a relativist view on truth, saying that, okay, anything goes as long as you can make up an argument to support it, which is, I guess we could call it probabilism, where if you, find a reason to do something, suddenly it becomes okay. But here's the thing. First thing is that, when we are supporting debate, we are ambiguous about the nature of truth. By that, what we mean is that we observe the fact of there being a disagreement, and we think that, the disagreement that exists can be solved in two ways. One, you can resolve it. So, you can analyze both sides of the coin, and you can find that, one position is untenable, there's an internal contradiction or something like that, and then you solve the disagreement. Or two, maybe there are some decisions that cannot be rationally solved. Maybe there are some incommensurable problems, dilemmas. For instance, the dilemma between Socrates and Callicles in Plato's writing, that was mentioned by Badiou in one lecture. The disagreement between the power, the might of the argument, obviously defended by Socrates in this dialogue, and the argument of might defended by Callicles. And so this is perhaps something that is incommensurable, as Badiou would say, and maybe this is something we cannot actually resolve, but this does not mean necessarily, oh, truth is relative. This just means that we have found an issue that maybe we cannot resolve, that we know that, that there's a disagreement that we cannot really answer. So yeah, and if anything, debate is about testing if an opinion is tenable, if an intellectual position can withstand scrutiny. So it's not anything goes, but rather we want to check if a position makes logical sense. Okay. The last thing that we often hear is teachers being concerned about sophism, especially philosophy teachers. We work with a lot of different teachers, but especially philosophy teachers are concerned that debate is close to sophism, that we are teaching young people empty rhetoric. which they can use to defend any point and any position. Here, we want to be very clear. Debate does not teach trickery, nor does it teach rhetorical devices. Debate is about seriously developing arguments and exploring disagreements, and in terms of education, learning how to be critical about positions, including your own position, and how to build logically strong, healthy, and sound arguments. So if debate is sophism, then any basic introduction to philosophical logic, Aristotelian logic and argumentation is also sophism, and which we obviously know the answer is it is not. This concludes the 4 main concerns teachers have with debate. And once again, thank you for your attention.